creative living, utilizing today's technology with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Sheryl Borden.
Thanks for joining me today for Creative Living. We're going to learn to create landscape designs on quilts and make a wall hanging that features quotations or pictures. One of my guests today is Karen Eckmeyer, and she's a quilter and an author, and her company is called The Quilted Lizard. Karen will show how to rotary cut several layers of fabric strips in a free motion technique. And as she explains, this can accidentally create a beach scene on a quilt. It's amazing to watch. She's from Kent, Connecticut, and her pattern for this technique is called Accidental Landscapes. The first guest on the show today is Teresa Cefali, and she's a mixed media artist from Valhalla, New York. Teresa is going to show how to make dimensional canvases using a gel medium and a heavy-bodied acrylic paint. By adding a quote or a picture, you'll see how it becomes a gorgeous piece of home decor. Her company is The Altered Canvas. Teresa, I know you're a craft designer, and I know from looking at some of the things that you brought, you had to really use your imagination to come up with some of the textures that you've added. What made you decide you want to do that?
Well, I think the problem is my brain is always going faster than my mouth and other things. So I'm always looking for new and exciting things to play with, and oh, can I do this, or will that work? So part of being...
So you experiment, don't you?
Experimenting is very important. So the times that I make my favorite things and learn new techniques is the times that I take just to play.
To play.
Very important.
I've heard other designers say the word play, and you do have to enjoy what you're doing, or it's not. It's
absolutely.
Work. This looks like mesh or metal. Or,
it is.
Is that what it is?
It is mesh. So this is a finer mesh over here.
Oh, I couldn't even see that one.
This is sandpaper. So what I wanted to do is just kind of create and build texture on the canvas just to make it look interesting. And then what you add to it to make it a piece of home decor is entirely up to you.
Okay.
This is just something I try to remember every day to be grateful and that I get to do what I love for a living.
And you certainly do nice work, too.
Thank you.
Oh, vellum. I love vellum.
Of course. We love vellum, too, because I really wanted to be able to see the color through it. And I just added a photo. This is just different types of handmade papers. I told you, I've mentioned before that I have a little bit of a paper fetish. I have a stash, including the big sheets of all different kinds of handmade papers, and they're so interesting, and the textures are interesting.
So you just tore it? Is that what you did?
This here is just tissue paper, and here, tissue paper. So just kind of put it with your gel mediums and build it up.
And you're going to show us some of those gel mediums.
I am right now.
Familiar with that. And this is what we're going to make, isn't it?
That's what we're doing today.
Wow.
This is a lot of fun to make.
Wow.
This is using gel mediums to create texture in a canvas.
And this too?
That's also a gel medium. It's a crackle gel medium. And
everyone's different, I bet, too, isn't it?
Every medium is different. A gel medium, basically, if you want to think about it, it's kind of like paint, a colorless paint. Really is all it is.
And it's thick. It looks like it's different thicknesses.
There are a lot of different thicknesses. The viscosity, it depends on what it is.
Oh.
This is a tar gel, actually.
Oh.
This one is very runny.
More like paste.
And there are different thicknesses.
This one is a granular gel, and you can see it's just
they're
kind
textured. And what they're used for is to change the properties of your acrylic paints.
Oh.
And I brought heavy-bodied acrylics with me today that you could either mix in or you can paint over. And we're actually going to do a demonstration of how you would paint over.
And
so
the mix in or paint over.
Mix in or paint over. So if you're looking to change the consistency to build texture and get certain effects, that's when you start playing with the different mediums.
Okay.
So this is...
Do you have to gesso these, or do they? Is this how you buy
I wouldn't.
them?
This is just your regular stretch canvas. I've done nothing to prep the surface at all.
Okay.
And all you're going to do is...
You're using the crackle
This is the crackle. I'm going to start with the crackle.
Is that the one you used here?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what creates
And people tend to get very frustrated with crackles because, you know, I've had people tell me, I've tried and I can never get a crackle. And with crackle, you need patience. You need patience.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you forewarned us.
And I'm not a patient person, so I always have like more than one project to work on because I know I'm going to have to leave this. But the thicker you put it on, the more of a crackle you're going to get. If I put a really thin coat on this, it's not going to crackle very much. So you're going to get a nice, really, really deep crackle with this if you put it on nice and thick, and then you really, really leave it for 24 hours.
Do you ever like sketch this out? Like
No.
I'm just thinking of this
Completely freeform.
Just freeform.
Kind of go with it. And whatever comes up with, then that gets kind of.
That's what you work with.
That's what I work with.
Okay.
This is a coarse pumice gel. It's kind of like a cement. So I'm just going to stick a little bit over
like
here so you can see.
fibers, doesn't
And
it? It's kind of fibery looking.
This one actually is more like a cement. Can you hear that scraping?
It is. It does sound like it.
It's kind of almost like concrete-ish.
And I noticed you left a little hole. Is that intentional?
Whatever it comes out to. If I didn't like it, I could just go back in. You have some time to play. These will take a while to dry.
How long approximately?
I leave them, depending how thick you make them. The thicker you build it up, the longer it's going to take to dry. If you put a really thin coat of this on, it could dry in a couple hours.
Oh, okay.
But if you put it on really thick, especially like the way it is in this example, it could take
maybe overnight.
Overnight.
And work on something
just
else.
overnight. This is a fiber paste. This is more like the texture of pulp. And what's really cool, and the reason why I like to use the different mediums, is because when I paint over them, the paint will adhere a different way
Differently.
to each technique. And then this one here is granular. And it's a little bit more clear.
You can hear it.
And it's just got little graininess in there. It kind of looks like cottage cheese, but certainly doesn't feel like it if you were to touch it. I can tell you that much. You definitely don't want to eat that either.
Okay.
So you're just going to leave it, let it kind of sit overnight. I'm going to put it over here.
So we won't lay our hands in
And
it.
when you let it dry, and here's what I was talking about, the crackle. You can
nice,
see how
deep.
deep, because I put it on really, really thick.
And tell us what this one is.
This
What
is
are
the
they?
fiber.
This is the fiber.
This is the clear granular gel. This is the pumice.
The concrete kind of.
And then, of course, the crackle.
Wow.
And really what you're going to do from that point is these are heavy-bodied acrylics. And
do they always come in tubes? I have some acrylics that are in little.
those are fluid acrylics.
Okay.
And those are different. These are a lot
Much
thicker.
thicker.
You know,
Okay.
your fluid acrylics, if you were to turn the plate, they're going to
They'll
start to
run.
drip all over the place. These are going to
Okay.
kind of stay on there.
I see. Okay.
But you can definitely use them. If you can make your fluid acrylics thicker by mixing them into.
That's right. You said
so
we
you
could
take
mix
them
it.
out, put it on a palette. I don't buy palette paper. I am by no means a fine artist at all. I just like to play. So, so really, I just use paper plates all the time. I just find it's cheapest. And then this is the only thing I don't skimp out on is good brushes.
Good brushes.
Because
And they're inexpensive, but they're an investment, aren't they?
They are, because what happens is you buy cheap brushes and then you end up with like little pieces of brushes in your work, and that just never works. So I'm going to work with water, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with any light color that I want, and I'm just going to mix them kind of in the middle, make them a mess, maybe bring some white in there, and then I'm just going to kind of give this like a wash, just like this, go over the whole thing. Maybe as I get into some of the darker colors, I might want to. And you have to work your brush in there, and this is why you need a good quality brush. You're going to have to work. There's all sorts of grooves and crevices in there, so you really have to work your brush in.
I see.
And work really hard.
I like when the different colors kind of bleed in there.
Oh, me too. Because you never know. It's always a surprise, and I like surprises. Surprises are good. So you can see it looks a little different. It looks a little bit more muted here than it does over here. And then over the fiber paste, you've got that kind of effect. But what's really cool about your crackle, and I'm going to show you on this.
So pretty. I like the crackle.
So do I. I was very pleasantly pleased the first time I used this to get a really decent crackle. So I was like, yay,
It worked.
It works. It's a lot of effort to put in. It's for little return, you know? We're going to have all this wet stuff over here. So
now we're ready to add our
Now we're ready.
embellishments.
So now here we've got, and I didn't really add a lot to it. I've got this canvas. This is my base color. I've put a wash over this, and you can see how good this crackle is. I did this over a week ago, and like it's still crackling.
Oh, and these whites are new cracks.
They're new cracks. They're new cracks. So I'm actually going to take the time to show you a really, this is just very fun. I do my crackle light first, And then I want to add a lot of water to a very dark color. Almost like you're going to make it watery. And we're going to do what's called a wash. This is a wash. You can make it as thin or as thick as you want, and then you're going to brush it on. And I'm going to brush it here everywhere where I see those white cracks. Because the water then will go into those crevices, and then you just wipe off.
Oh, like furniture refinishing almost.
Exactly. And it will darken up all those cracks to make them more pronounced.
Oh, I like that.
They stand out a lot more than some of these other ones are. And then that's all you're going to do. And then you can go back in.
So do you seal it with any type of
I don't.
clear
But
acrylic?
you can use, if you wanted to, but I don't generally seal mine. I leave them. The colors really just last very well. And then, you know, just want to maybe go in and like give this a little bit of texture just to add, you know, in those places, so from like a distance.
I think I would have a tendency to overwork it. Is that ever a problem?
Oh yeah, you can definitely go to town. But the beautiful part about paint is you let it dry, and then you come back to it and you can fix all those things. You just go right back and you just paint right over it again. Oh, I didn't like that. I'd like that.
Or
I didn't like that blue. I put too much. And then you can just go back and just add, you know, so you have those shadows and highlights. And you can see the contouring going on in there.
You're painting upside down.
That's good. I do lots of things upside down. It comes from my teaching days. I used to teach elementary school, and you have to do everything upside down. So just that's all you really have to do.
And then, like the saying that you tore out, how do you attach that with what type of medium?
So this is just a copy paper, again, printed, and again, you want to use toner copies, because if you use inkjet, it's going to run the minute you add any moisture to it. And I just darkened up the edges, and I used regular gel matte. Now, what people don't know about gel mediums, this consistency, this comes in a heavy-bodied, a light, and it comes in a dark. This actually is like the world's best paste. I use this for glue all the time. Most people don't realize that these gel mediums are excellent adhesives.
I didn't know that. And I thought they were just for building texture. So
kind of brush it on the back. Now my paper, I don't know if you can see that, is going to start to curl, and that's normal. It happens anytime you introduce anything that has moisture in it.
Liquids to
paper. That's going to happen. And so, you know, then you have that combative. You have to combat like the curling, and is it going to stay up? And I always cheat when I'm doing stuff like this. I kind of rub it in, then I'll put a piece of wax paper over it and throw a couple books on top, and then
let it set overnight or a few hours
set for
or whatever.
a few hours, and it'll work just fine.
Well, Albie, so that was the gel medium that you attached that with.
That's everything.
That's amazing.
And I didn't even get that dirty.
No, you didn't. You did well. Thank you very much, Teresa, for showing us how to add these.
My pleasure.
Karen, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to meet you. I've enjoyed looking through your wonderful books and oohing and aahing over the patterns. So you've been doing quilting and quilt projects a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, it's about 24 years I've been quilting, and these accidental landscapes have come upon me accidentally recently.
And that's what I was going to say. I've had lots of wonderful quilt guests on, but everything seems so exact. So when you said you were going to do something called accidental piecing, I thought this may be the one I can really do.
Yeah.
And this is what you're talking, this is called beaches, accidental beaches.
This is the one we're going to do today. And you know, a lot of people say accidental and landscapes. It's not two words that are normally put together. And so what we've done, we've carefully...
Now, maybe first tell me what part of this, how do you refer to this as being accidental? It looks very plain.
Well, that's what I was getting to. I carefully figure out all the colors and the proportions and values so that when you go to cut your strips, which are being done freeform, they accidentally, and I promise, go together to make a landscape.
And this is the pattern of the exact one we're going to use, but there's lots of other accidental landscapes in your book too.
This
so
is the
if you
basic
really
concept.
get involved in it, there's lots of things to do. So you're right. This is what this is where you start.
This is where we start. It's always great to start whatever landscape you're doing with a great sky, something that's fun looking.
Is this pattern perfect or
yeah,
what?
Is that great? And then for our water, we're going to do a dark, a medium, and a light strip of blue. And then for sands, I do 11 different sand fabrics, and they don't have to be beach fabrics, but if they are, that's
like
fine.
This is grass.
Yeah. But the idea is that we're going to start with this rectangle that's about the same width as our sky.
That's really the bottom. Is that the bottom
It's
one?
whatever. You'll see. It's going to be any old order.
See, I'm so used to planning everything out.
You can't make a mistake. And this is the hardest part for everybody, because I say, okay, from those pieces that you have cut, I want you to cut a curve that feels good.
And are you just doing one piece at a time?
I do, because I want them all to be slightly different.
Oh, okay.
So I tell people, just take a breath and just practice a couple times. See what feels good, and then when it's safe, just cut a little curve. And I'm going to do something a little different, a little curve on each one of those, and a very gentle curve on the blue strips. And then I'm going to take that, and I won't cut them all, but I have them all done. I'm going to turn it upside down so that we've got that facing. And with my index finger and my thumb, I'm going to follow with this iron.
So that you have a clean finish.
I have a nice clean finish, and that you see that the back, whoops, got a hair there. And so as long as it looks nice from the front.
And these are obviously cotton fabrics. Like
yeah, cotton is what we want to
quilting.
use.
Perfect.
So we're going to just skip ahead, and we're going to say we've ironed all those strips.
So we would have done we'd have just done those on every one of those strips.
We would have just cut and ironed all those strips, and now we
Imagine what
have.
your students are thinking.
Yeah. And now we've magically ironed all those, and this is the layering process.
And this is the sky. Okay.
Okay. So then we start with our blue fabric, which is our distant
three
horizon.
blues. That's the dark one.
And we're just putting it down to cover the bottom raw edge. Okay.
Because this is where you folded it under
Yes,
right
that's
here. Got it.
exactly.
Okay.
And then I can put
look
this
at
down.
that curve,
okay.
that accidental curve.
Right, right. And I could say maybe I don't like where it is. I can move it left or right, as long it doesn't matter whether it matches with the sides.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, which is neat. And we don't want to put it here because we'll have a table runner then. We want to keep it really, really tight, really
Okay.
tight. And we're going to do the same thing with our next one. And it's okay if that accidentally falls there. And I don't have these in an order, and just to prove that, we're just going to kind of make a pile
Shuffle
here.
them up here.
Yes. And then we're going to start to put them down. Now, I could tilt this. Wouldn't that look neat? It would look like you're standing on
I'd be afraid to do that.
But we could. But for now, I'm going to just plunk these down, so to speak. That's a scientific word.
For quilting.
For quilting, yeah. For what I do, for my accidental quilting. And I'm just going to keep layering these down here.
Come up with this accidentally?
I did. I
okay.
truly did. I was teaching this technique for several years, and then all of a sudden at the end of our classes, we'd realize we had landscapes, and we never intended to do it.
I thought that was corduroy.
It does.
Gives it a nice texture look, doesn't it?
I usually don't do this upside down, but it still works.
It's working pretty
It works
nicely,
pretty
isn't
well.
it?
And if I have a favorite fabric, which I do, kind of this one with the seashells, I save that for last. And then just to kind of give you an idea, there you have your scene. And that's how long it takes. I mean, just the layering.
Now let me ask this. A while ago you said that if we wanted to have moved this, let's say this one off over here a ways, do you just overlap
As long
like
as
that?
the next strip that goes down covers
it.
that raw
I see.
edge.
That's amazing.
Isn't
and so
that cool?
that kind of gives you hope that you haven't made a big mistake.
Yeah, it's hard to see your composition, and then when you crop it, then you say, oh, I kind of like that. But of course, as
That is
quilters,
amazing.
we change our mind. And but at one point, you say, okay, I'm going to pin all those layers together. So we'll just put those
while
away.
it's still laying flat on your...
Yeah, while it's laying flat. And you'll notice that one pin will hold several layers, so we're not doing one at a time. And the test that it's done well is that you
and
can
let's
do
hold
this.
up. That is just amazing.
So it's not accidental pinning.
No.
No accidental
That's
pinning.
an important step.
So now we're ready to top stitch, and I'm not going to sew, but we're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch in from the edge, okay? And
On
we're
each
gonna,
one of
on
them?
each
Oh.
one. We're going to work our way up and take the pins out as we go.
So on this one, we would only go as far as where this one overlaps it?
We
Because
would just
this
go from
one's
here
cut,
over,
okay.
and yeah, if there's any that disappear, we'll just work our way out in matching thread.
Straight stitching, how hard is that?
I mean, it's not hard at all. So now we have it top stitched, and you can
that's
see I move
amazing.
strips.
Oh, and this one, that's just so beautiful how I mean, you can tell that sky and water and dirt.
Yeah, you got the basics. And now you trim it, whatever your shortest raw edge is.
Oh, okay.
And then whatever is in the back that you can fit your fingers underneath, that needs to be trimmed. The rest can stay.
Just to eliminate bulk.
Yeah,
is
because
the
we want to be
purpose.
able to quilt it.
Oh, okay.
And then, so here we have one that's already trimmed. And so I kind of call this the blank canvas because it's pretty and wonderful, but it doesn't have a focal point. It's nothing that says, come to my beach and stay a while. And that's what we do by adding a little dune fence like that, or a sailboat. And the dune fences.
And I noticed this.
Oh yeah, I'm going to show you some
foam?
of that too. That's a little yarn, fuzzy yarn.
Okay.
So a dune fence is, we're just going to cut a couple strips with our rotary cutter. Like so.
I wouldn't have even thought you could sew on them that
Yeah, cut a couple more of those just to get the idea, and then we would place them wherever I want. And the fun thing with a dune fence, aren't they always falling down? I mean, even yeah, I mean, so you do that.
And some wider than others, and they've weathered the storms.
And a sailboat just becomes, because these are tiny, is just a little triangle of white, put there in the distance. And
Oh, I hadn't even noticed that. My
yeah,
goodness.
just there in the distance. And they're held down with a little glue basted.
So
you
that
just
you
kind of put that in there and hold it in place until you glue it.
And would you do the same thing with the little fence pieces?
Yes, and
because
then
they're
what's
so
nice with that is you can just slide that there and you can glue it in place, and then you can see that it's top stitched.
Yes.
And what's fun for those that perhaps you're not a quilter, at this point, you could take your piece
frame it.
and frame it. I mean, I just have the mat here, and then add your frame to that.
And like earlier, we can talk about just changing the mat gives the picture
doesn't it?
a totally different look.
Really changes it.
That is just beautiful.
And you notice the fuzzy yarn. I mean,
Yes.
that's an addition. We can add that. That's some of
And
that.
is that stitched on?
That
You
is
glue it
also
first and
stitched
then
on
stitch
there.
It down. So every little scrap you have in the drawer can be used for something.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really, that's done in 3 hours. And then if we want to add batting, we can add batting and borders. And here we can have fun with yarns
and the
beads, bugle beads to make a starfish and all.
I don't think you can see the beauty of
Probably
all that.
not.
That's so pretty.
So that's the basic concept. And the fun thing is, just by changing colors, I mean, most of us think that a beach is, you know, certain colors, but because your eye, whenever it sees horizontal lines, it says, oh, that's a landscape. If I do it in yellows, it's fine.
Well,
I think you can still tell. And because these are small scenes, our details are simple. So an umbrella is a half a circle, beach chairs are squares, and we just have some beach grass there too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Here's another adaptation. I call this my accidental landscape, because when I'm making these scenes, I have a whole bunch of strips. And, well, should I throw them away? No, I can't throw them away. So I put them together and I get another little scene. And you can add a little, you know, little lighthouse with fabric.
Oh, beautiful.
And last but not least, there's one other one there. We're going to add some photo transfers. This is my daughter 28 years ago.
Oh,
she now has children that age.
This is an actual picture of
That's
photo transfer.
yeah.
We've showed that before, but what a great way to make this so personal.
It's a memory, and those are shells that we actually collected on that beach, you know, that particular day in Virgin Gorda. So that personalizes, and it's just using exactly what I've
And again, just
shown
scraps.
You. Just yeah, just strips. And here's it looks very different, but here we're more sky, and we've put our strips real close together, and we've added sea oats and just changed the scene and the time of the day.
And added a little bird up there. How perfect. Well, Karen, this is just wonderful. You're so talented. Thank you so much for showing us how to do this.
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. Next time on Creative Living, we'll learn how to dress to look 10 pounds thinner. We'll demonstrate making a delicious toffee and talk about fitting and designing knits. Most women are looking for ways to look 10 pounds thinner, and one of my next guests is a wardrobe consultant and author, and she's going to demonstrate on herself how to make changes that will result in a slimmer and more flattering look. Two other guests are cookbook authors, and they're going to demonstrate making a delicious seaside toffee. Each recipe in their cookbook tells a wonderful story about the recipe, and my guest will share this story as they prepare the toffee. These ladies are referred to as the Sugar Mamas, and their cookbook is Sugar, Sugar, Every Recipe Has a Story. And finally, we'll talk to a pattern designer about how to fit and design knit garments. She'll also show sketches of knit designs that illustrate the various knit fabrics and stretch elements in each one. All of these topics will be featured on the next Creative Living show. If you ever have comments or suggestions or ideas for shows, you can email me at sheryl.borden@enmu.edu. I'd also like to invite you to become a fan of Creative Living on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and in the search window, type in Creative Living with Sheryl Borden. Thanks so much. I hope you'll plan to join me next time for Creative Living.
We are very pleased to offer a new booklet that accompanies this series of Creative Living. This booklet is titled the 6500 Series, and it features a wonderful collection of ideas and information, and it's available free of charge on our website. Posted as a PDF file, you can simply download the entire booklet, or just the segments you're most interested in. As with all of the Creative Living booklets, you'll find information on foods and nutrition, clothing and fashion, health and beauty, home decorating, and much more. For your copy of this booklet, go to our website at kenw.org and then click on Creative Living. Scroll down to the booklet section and you can click on this booklet or any of the other booklets we have available online. Once again, just go to kenw.org, click on Creative Living, and download the booklet, titled the 6500 Series. We also want to encourage you to sign up for our free e-newsletter. Just click on the Sign Up Now button and input your email address. That's all there is to it. You'll enjoy reading an up-to-date newsletter filled with interesting topics and information. Thank you.